The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and are not those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. The phone lines are open. Call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU. It's time for Stuart Laser Talk with your host, Dr. Tred J. Rizacker.
I'm 5'10" and 242 pounds.
I always say this is the biggest I'm ever going to be, and I said that like 20 pounds ago.
A third of Americans are obese, another third is overweight.
Obesity is the biggest threat to the health, welfare, and future of this country.
I've always been overweight.
I've got diabetes,
Sleep apnea, heart disease.
everything's hurting now.
It's a lot easier to lose weight than it is to keep weight off.
This is probably going to be the first generation of children who are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
18% of our children right now are obese.
It's not only health, it's about survival and well-being of the United States as a nation.
You don't crave broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac.
I want to think that there's something better for me.
Unless we're able to control this epidemic, we're going to have an abundance of chronic disease.
All of us have to be part of the solution to reduce obesity.
The weight of the nation is out of control, but we can fix that.
If we don't now take this as a really urgent national priority, we are all going to pay a really serious price.
Obesity will crush the United States in oblivion.
Good morning, Stuart, Florida. My name is Dr. Tred Rizacker, and I am a doctor of chiropractic, and I am the owner, a client, and the doctor at Slim Body Laser Spa. And the Slim Body Laser Spa is located in Stuart on East Ocean Boulevard on the way out to Hutchinson Island. It's in the Carmela's Shopping Plaza where the Carmela's restaurant is, right across the street from the Fresh Market. And what I'm doing there is I'm doing something which is absolutely revolutionary. It's brand new. It's my own procedure and accumulation of skills that I've developed over 32 years as a chiropractor has all culminated into this one perfect laser-focused procedure, and that is using a laser to help you to lose weight. I mean, no diet, no exercise, very minimal personal changes, depends on the person, of course, but you can literally come into the Slim Body Laser Spa in 3 weeks, 9 30-minute laser sessions, 3 times a week for 3 weeks, 10 minutes of whole body vibration. Don't eat 2 hours before, 2 hours after, and you can lose. I lost 4 inches of girth in 3 weeks. That I went from a size 40 waist, super metabolic syndrome, big belly tread. I lost 4 inches of girth. I went from a 40 to a 36 waist in 3 weeks. I mean it. And I wasn't sucking in my tummy. I wasn't holding it in. Although I used to hold it in because I didn't want people to see my big belly. So, and after I had my own result and I saw it motivated me to take better care of my overall weight because I lost those inches so fast. And I realized after the last 30 years in practice and watching this obesity crisis we're under, this epidemic, that if there was something that could motivate people to bust a move, to a kickstart, a springboard, a booster rocket, we're talking a scolding by your grandmother, maybe will motivate you. Or maybe your child looking up at you and saying, "Daddy, please take better care of yourself. I want you to be here when I get married someday," right? These are and then you say, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go with this? I know I got a weight problem. I know it's going to create a less of a lifestyle. I mean, it's going to impact my overall health someday. And it's very, very confusing what to do, where to go, how much to eat, whether it's ketone, whether it's carbohydrate, how many proteins should I have? Can I fast? I heard there's intermittent fasting and there's the mimicking fasting diet where you mimic fasting, but you're really not fasting. So why do they call it mimicking? It goes on and on and on. I bet you wouldn't even, I bet the National Institutes of Health couldn't categorize and document all the different weight loss ideas. It is that many, that varied, because, there's a little bit of profit involved. And there's profit in staying sick too. Remember that. There's profit in having diseases and having long-term chronic health problems. There's profit. There's a whole group and industry that makes a lot of money on that. So, it's amazing that same group that makes so much money on you being sick, really, when you show up and you're asking about help, how to prevent that, there's very little help. There's some handouts they give you, a couple of, worksheets. They'll tell you that you need to do this or lose weight, or you need to get rid of some of that belly fat. And then they just send you on your way to the internet. Good luck there. I've never seen more kooky people in my whole life as on YouTube putting in laser weight loss or laser lipo or, lose weight. In YouTube, you will see a conga line of crazy people, one after another. And they're all promoting something, selling something. It took me a while to realize that those influencers, as they call them, really have no skills, and they're not doctors. They're not nutritionists. They're not dietitians. There's somebody who agreed to be paid to promote a procedure or a new supplement line, or a diet program, or they're actually becoming a coach on the internet, or they're claiming to have knowledge about weight loss and keto diets. And let me tell you, it is a conga line of cuckoos. It shocks me when I go through and I see it. I wish there was a way of blocking them when they don't have the skills or the qualification. So, at the Slim Body Laser Spa, as a medical office, basically a physician's office, licensed in the state of Florida with malpractice, and we have guidelines and things that must be adhered to, because as a professional, my license is very important to me. And you can come in and rest assured that the skills and the things that are being said have been referenced, and they've had experience, and there's somebody that behind it, a doctor, who will put his reputation and his license and my whole future on the line, that what I'm telling you is truthful, and what I'm telling you is valuable based on your particular needs, where you are in your life. And you're just not going to get that on the internet, people. I don't want to really slam it too hard, but I would venture to say that 80% of most of the information you're getting on the internet now is biased and slanted in one way or another, and you don't even realize it, that this is what's happening. There's no guide. There's nobody, watching this information. There's no fact checking. There's nobody really looking at proving that these things are not truthful. And I know it from my own experience, because we have trolls. A troll is somebody who, for whatever reason, likes to piss you off, likes to say things that are definitely the opposite of what you're saying. And oftentimes I find out that these trolls are actually paid people that work for businesses that are trying to keep the market share in their favor. So one way of destroying somebody's business model is to throw up a whole bunch of bad reviews that have no basis in fact. They're just somebody who is, is not verified. They're anonymous, and they'll throw out a bad review, and then they'll knock that rating down, and people rely on those review ratings to see if something is valuable to you. And I would ask you to please look a little deeper into the business model and what they're saying, and don't go with a few reviews, because they've actually proven that 60 to 70% of negative reviews actually can come from somebody who's just trying to kill their business model. So, and they found them guilty of that also. So that's my part about getting your information from the internet. On the other hand, there's a lot of fantastic information on the internet. There's valuable content. There's valuable people. There's people that really do know what they're talking about. So you got to go in there with an open mind and an open eyes and use your common sense. If it sounds too good to be true, it might be, unless it's involved with low-level laser. Then the results are, you can't even, it's just out of this world. So Slim Body Laser Spa, lose 3 to 9 inches of stubborn fat while you lie on your back and listen to music. Those 3 to 9 inches are accumulated from 3 measurements in your abdomen. That is what we do. That is the results we get. I was challenged through the Better Business Bureau. I'm accredited with the Better Business Bureau. And I'd been accredited before as a chiropractor. I've been in practice 30 years. And I've never had them question anything in an accreditation. So I always wondered, why do they accredit somebody if there's very little vetting, very little examination? So recently, when I re-upped my accreditation for the Slim Body, in 2 months, I get a letter from them stating that I have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that my claim of 3 to 9 inch loss is legitimate and truthful. They felt I was doing a misleading ad. So I'm like, wow, great. I can prove that. So I went into my office and we have 350 signed testimonials with a person's face and their own signature written in their own handwriting, explaining their result at the Slim Body and the inches that they lost. So I pulled out just 10 of them and I took a picture of those 10. And then I went to their worksheet where they came in and did the, went through the process, and we documented the each visit and each inch loss. And of course I covered over the pertinent details except for their initials, so they knew that it was that person. And then I also included my paperwork, which is when you come in, we guarantee a 3-inch loss or money back when adding 3 measurements together. And from those records, and I sent that back to the Better Business Bureau out of West Palm, the main office there. And it took them, 8 weeks to come back, and they completely approved it. I don't think they have ever approved a weight loss or sculpting center, which is claiming inch loss across the board. I don't think that anybody has ever been, I don't know, I've never been challenged about it, but we were able to do it. And today we got that accreditation. We got that Better Business Bureau, and it was hard work, but it was worth it. But you're worth it. The clients are worth it. I really believe that to be true. All right. So did you know that I'm a chiropractor? I'm going to drag Michael into this a little bit. I need his feedback somewhat.
All right.
So
I know that you were a chiropractor?
Yeah, did you know that, or you thought I was some kind of laser blasting weight loss guy?
Laser blasting weight loss guy. That's what I was going with.
Right? And a good fisherman too, right?
Definitely.
And someone who grew up in Stuart, Florida since I was 10. I went to Martin County High School. So let me tell you, my dad, I'm going to go into a little bit away from Slim Body a little bit and go back into my roots.
Okay.
Roots, just like the movie Roots. I'm going to go back to my roots. My roots begin in New York. Okay. I was born on Long Island in Massapequa, New York. And my dad is Dr. Tom Rissacker. He was a chiropractor. He would be 100 by now. So he has passed away about 10 years ago. And my mom, fantastic, super healthy, open-minded, spiritually centered. She was juicing before juicing was cool. Okay. My mom bought a food extractor in 1965.
Oh, not juicing like in baseball?
No, not juicing like in baseball. We're talking getting the most nutrient-dense possible nutrition from a big bag of vegetables that you got, because kids don't like vegetables, or we liked them, but it's eating. And she was juicing a long time ago. Now, juicing is really popular today, but I think back, man, my mom was doing that 50 years ago. And I remember her giving me the story that she gave up cigarettes out of a challenge she had at the grocery store. It was either buy a pack of cigarettes or buy fresh fruit for her children. And she chose the fresh fruit and never smoked again that day. Now, she always stopped smoking for pregnancy, which Thank God, But back in the 60s and 70s, man, everybody was smoking like crazy. It was on TV. You saw it on the people that you believed in. All the movie people were smoking cigarettes.
We were watching old Bugs Bunny cartoons. They were smoking on that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And my mom, who saw, that her she always put her children first, and that was the last time she smoked. And she always encouraged lots of vegetables, and she believed in butter and salt. If you want to get your kid to eat vegetables, put a lot of butter and salt on it. At least they're getting started. It isn't probably the best choice, but at least it worked for us. And she never pushed food on any of us. I've been to family gatherings, my cousins, and it's like dinner time was like the war. It was like the gladiators, you're going to eat all your food. Well, well, no, I'm not. Well, yes, you are. And boom. And then the argument comes, and, this is you can't leave food on the table, and then it was like, oh my God, some people really, really police their kids about eating and this and that. And the kids will develop eating disorders when you do that to them. They don't, they're very weak, but they're very powerful at the same time. And one way that they can show you that they're strong and they have power is by denying you certain things you think are important, like taking a shower. Has anybody out there ever had a problem getting your kid to take a shower? I mean, short of, holding them down and rinsing them with a garden hose outside. And that's something that happens because of you're got these hangups over being clean. I'm not saying people shouldn't shower, but they'll hold that against you, or getting a kid to get his hair cut. And then also food. Food is something you can't make somebody do. So you don't want to get too crazy with food and children, because they will develop eating disorders. And I'm only mentioning this because my business is in helping people that have gained too much weight, that have lost control of food. And it really begins at a very young age. You learn these things from your parents. You learn these things from when you're a little kid. And you're, was food prepared? Was it honored? Was it cherished as a family group where you get together with your family and share that? I think that's so important. So my dad, being a chiropractor, he graduated from Palmer School of Chiropractic in 1959. I wasn't even born yet. I'm sorry, not 59, 1949, right after World War II. 1950 is on his diploma, and I wasn't born for another 10 years. Now, that's a long time ago to become a chiropractor. So something happened to him when he was a young man, which changed his life. And basically, he was 12 years old, and he lived in Valley Stream, New York, in Long Island. And he was at the park where he said he used to catch the trout in the river there. Not many trout left in Valley Stream, New York, but he said they used to go there and they would make these dams and they would catch the trout. Well, anyway, he was in a tree, little tree fort, fell out, popped on his head, fell on his neck, and went back home. He developed a stiff neck, basically a twitch, a tick, an abnormal movement, and he couldn't control it, and it was getting worse. And they took him to the allopathic doctors, which are medical doctors, and they basically diagnosed him. They said that the fall initiated a condition which is a neurological degenerative condition, that it happened as a result of the fall, and they called it St. Vitus dance. Now, if you're over 50 or 60 years old, you know what St. Vitus dance is. If you're under 40 years old, it's called Huntington's disease. And Huntington's disease is diagnosed by a series of symptoms and movements that a person can't control their body movements. And it progressively gets worse. It leads to paralysis, and eventually you can't breathe. So in your 20s with this problem, you might be looking at an iron lung to stay alive. I mean, this was what they told my grandmother. Very devastating news. But they're the leaders of these types of decisions. They make these choices. So 2 years, my dad suffered with this problem. He was put on medications, sedatives when it would get bad, and he was dealing with it. And a woman came up to my grandmother when my dad was 14, 2 or 3 years he'd been suffering with this. And she asked him why he was moving like that. And my grandmother told him, and she said, have you ever tried a chiropractor? Now, this was in 1936. That was a long time ago. And my grandmother, who was open-minded, God bless her, and says, well, what do I have to lose? Let's go find out. And they took my dad to a chiropractor outside of Manhattan, and they x-rayed his neck. And what happened was the fall had caused the vertebra, that top atlas, they call it, just under your skull, had shifted to the side. And it was very visibly, you could feel it, you could see it sticking out on the muscle underneath his skull, and his head was crooked, tilted to the side all the time. Well, this old, I don't want to say he was old, he was probably a young chiropractor at the time, set up, got his hand on that neck and put my dad in the proper position and made an adjustment. And my father never had the problem again.
Wow.
Cured it. It corrected the cause of his tics and his spasms and his uncontrollable movements. Was not Huntington's disease. It was not St. Vitus dance. It was secondary. It was a fall from the tree, which knocked his neck out of alignment. And that alignment problem created a neurological reaction within his body to develop all these muscle, intonicities and these spasms. Medicine did nothing but treat the symptoms until he found the cause, which was an old-time chiropractor. So you can't tell my father that chiropractic is invaluable. You couldn't tell my grandmother that. And my dad, when he got out of World War II, he was kind of searching for something that had a purpose. He was a fantastic artist, loved artist. He was so skilled at art that in New York, his job was to draw on the police cars those big decals of the lion. Have you ever been in Nassau County? You know that they have that shield and it's a lion. And his job was to draw those on the cars and paint them. So he was good. And as a result of it, he got out of World War II and they gave him the GI Bill, and he talked about 6 other people from his ship. He was in the Navy to go to Davenport, Iowa, and become chiropractors. And he graduated when he was 22 years old.
No, why Iowa?
That's where the fountainhead of chiropractic is.
Oh, okay.
In Davenport. It's called the Palmer School of Chiropractic. And that was the founder and his son's school. And now there's about 14 or 15 other chiropractic colleges. And but Palmer is still considered, the fountainhead, the leader. And to tell you the challenge he had, he gets out of college. He doesn't, you go right after high school. So it's only 3 years. And he's 22 years old. He goes back to New York and he's working, driving a tow truck at night to pay his bills. He's working for his father, my grandfather, at the wholesale florist to help survive. And they build a little addition on the house in Lynbrook on Hempstead Avenue. Basically, they finish the front porch and that becomes his office. But, he used to charge $3 an adjustment. So he's 22 years old, 23, and his first wife has a baby, have their first child, Tony Jean, and she develops double lobar pneumonia in the hospital after being born. Now, that can happen with children, and what can happen is they can inhale the meconium. That's, when a baby's born, there's this fluid, and sometimes they can aspirate that, and that can lead to this infection. But no matter how it happened, it was double lung infection. Now, in 1953, antibiotics were being used, but they sure weren't like they are today. And the chances of her surviving were very, very, it was a bad outcome. So here's my dad. He's 22 years old. And the only thing he really knows is that the body can heal itself, and it just needs no interference, and that an adjustment can allow the body to heal itself. And, the birth process, whatever his belief was, he wanted to adjust his child. And that went over like a lead balloon in the hospital at the time. And this was in New York. And, here he's just a kid. And nobody understands. They didn't believe in it at all back then, not even a little bit. Well, he made the decision to take his child out of the hospital and adjust her. And so this is what he taught me. He said that, the baby is like 8 pounds, and it's a little baby, and its temperature's high, and it's crying, and they're trying to keep the temperature down with warm, water baths and things like that. And then he said he used his fingers right under the skull to very gently impulse into that atlas axis segment, that top of that neck, the one that he heard when he was a kid. And he said that when he did it, there was no cracking sound. It was very gentle, but he said she stopped crying, and the temperature dropped 2 to 3 degrees right after just doing that on that one spot. And he said, and it wasn't the infection that will kill somebody. It's the temperature that goes with an infection that can be so dangerous. So 2 to 3 hours later, the temperature started to creep up again. And he went back to that spot on the neck, and it was on the other side this time. And so he very gently, did his little thing with his fingers, and the temperature dropped, and the baby stopped crying for that couple hours. Anyway, he bounced back and forth from left side to right side, back to the sacrum, which is your tailbone. He did it for about 5 days in a row at night, brought the baby home. And now understand that the doctors where he checked the baby out, they were, wanting to know, they were very aggressive that he had done something that would be almost illegal by taking her out of there. Well, long story short, the baby broke the fever, and she healed, and she has no lung damage today. This is my older sister. She's 68 years old today, this week. And she never had any breathing problems as a result of that. And I don't know about you all out there, but I want to take you after 3 years of and have that challenge in your life in the beginning of your career. He had no experience, yet he has that belief, which is you just can't change that, this fact. So, I was born in 1960. I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters, and I was brought up my whole life around his office, seeing people getting adjusted, seeing people come in, and also the stories and the people that he helped were more than I just thought. I thought my dad was an incredible person. I didn't know how few people had ever been to a chiropractor, or really the ones that have gone never saw somebody like my dad, who was such a straight, straight, honest person who had such belief in what it did. So it was only natural for me to become a chiropractor. So, I wanted to do it since I was a little kid. So I graduated. I went to Martin County High School, took some undergraduate studies up at the Indian River Community College. I took my biology and my anatomies here in Stewart, in Fort Pierce. I used to drive up the turnpike to go there. It was before I-95. And I ended up transferring out to California. I took some classes out there, and then I finished my associates, which is allowed me to get into chiropractic. I finished that in New York at Nassau Community College, and I graduated with my chiropractic degree in 1988. Now, at that time, when I went back to New York and I took my board, my father had been practicing for 51 years. 51 years in that same office practicing chiropractic. And I'm the new guy. I show up, I'm 29 years old, full of energy, full of, belief it works. Well, in 1 year, I worked with him for about 1.5 years, close to 2 years. And then we did the transition, and he moved down to Sebastian, Florida. And I stayed in New York and just had a wonderful career for over 15 years, taking care of people there and hundreds of people. He had an average base of about 2,700 people would come in within the year that were not coming in all the time. In other words, it was just their visit. It was 2,500 people would come in. There'd be 3 or 4 new people in a week that weren't new, that had been coming in for 20, 30 years to see my father. So the only marketing I had to do was answer the phone, I like to say, and not hurt anybody, right? Which we didn't. And after 9/11, I watched the on TV that morning when my girlfriend called me from Manhattan, and she said, "Put on the TV, wake up, put on the TV," because I'm usually off on Tuesday mornings. And I saw that plane hit that building, and I knew everything was going to change for me.
Yep.
I said, "Holy cow, this is not okay." 1.5 years later, about a year to 2 years after that horrible day, my property island, and still they wanted that professional office space. And since I had a home office all built up for 15, 18 years, it was very valuable. And I'd also realized that I really wanted to be closer to my family, because what if they drop another plane on Long Island or something? You know, it was scary. I don't know about you, but I was scared. You had no knowing if someone's going to drop out of the sky. They hadn't really figured it all out yet, what happened. So I wanted to be closer to my family. And I took the offer when somebody offered to buy the office. And the patient base, I transferred over to another chiropractor who was happy.
Sure.
I didn't charge him for it.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to go. Came to Florida, opened up on Monterey, on right there by the Home Goods in that plaza. There used to be a Hearing RX center. I started out without a single person. My first patient was Mike Patel, who owns the Hope Sound liquor store. He had a little store there, and he come in one day. He says, "You need patients. You're a chiropractor, right?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I just opened." He's like, I'm going to bring you some people. You're going to see my son. So it was like my first patient was the guy who owned the store next to me, who brought in this person. Within 3 years, I'm doing 300 people a week. You know, I mean, I have skills, but it took a little while to start out. And then what happens is I'm in practice for another, yes, I'm getting on my 9th year at this point here in Florida. And this kid comes into my office to cover for a week. I'm going to the Keys for mini season, and it's in August. I'm taking that week off. And he says to me, "Doc," he says, I see that you got I'm going over different cases, because he's going to work for me for that week so I can take this week off. It's hard to take any time off when you're a doctor. And he says, "Do you have a laser? What do I do when someone's in a lot of pain?" And I'm like, "Well, you put ice on them, you see them a couple of times, you be there for them, and the pain will go very quickly." He says, No. He says, "You don't have a laser?" And I'm like, "A laser? This is a chiropractic office. Why would I have a laser?" He goes, No, they're not surgical lasers. He says they're therapeutic lasers. He says they can reduce pain, 50% reduction in pain and 50% reduction in inflammation within the first treatment. And that's been documented. Now, okay, I know that ice will reduce inflammation, and I know that rest can reduce pain. So I wasn't too enthralled when he told me that it would just knock out pain and inflammation. And then he said something that got my attention. He said, "And they're biostimulatory." He says, bio means cellular life, and stimulation means the laser energy can stimulate cellular functions in a positive way. Depending on the color of the light, red, blue, green, infrared, near infrared, and depending on the power that's behind it, you can have different physiological changes within a tissue cell. In other words, one color light will create protein synthesis, so the cell membranes and cellular contents can heal and be stronger. Another color light in the infrared and near infrared spectrum, which is the one you can't see with your eyes, this is really big on bringing all of the inflammatory molecules which help heal tissue. It attracts them and pulls them into the tissues. It's called a cascading hormonal response from this laser light energy in the near infrared wavelength. So basically what you might have taken 2 months to heal, laser treatment along with nutrition and other things to support it, your healing time is like 1/5 of what it is. I mean, there's people that have pulled their hamstrings all the way down their leg with a big black and blue mark, and with a week of laser treatment, they're back running and playing football. What would have been a 6-week to 2-month, being out of work or not being able to work. So when you put the laser on it, they just get better faster. And it just, I came back from that vacation. it changed my life. I bought my first low-level cold laser. It looked like a flashlight. It cost me $3,800. Just so you know. I had the money to do it. And I said, I'm a techie kind of guy. I like technology. I think technology applied correctly can really benefit people. And I saw that laser as a way of maybe helping people not have to have drugs. In other words, pain syndromes are a big reason why people go to pain management. They can't heal from the pain. The pain is not treatable. Whatever caused it, they can't change it, and they're suffering with pain. If you've suffered with pain long enough, you will go to the pain management doctor, and you will take a chance with opiates and steroidal injections and nerve blocks and all of the stuff that pain management does. And they will tell you at pain management, we cannot correct the cause of this problem. What you're doing here is managing the symptoms so you can have a semi-comfortable life. Well, boy, did they miss the mark on that one on some people. Look at the opiate crisis, this epidemic we're having. I just heard it on the radio today. What is it? Johnson & Johnson was found guilty yesterday of somehow coercion or creating a situation where they made so much money on selling opiates, and they knew that there was problems with it, but they didn't tell people about it. I don't know the whole details of the case, but they're appealing it right now, and it's a huge thing. It's millions and probably $1 billion of penalties to people that have been stricken by this opioid crisis, this epidemic. And do you know that a pain laser, a low-level laser device like this thing I bought, can help probably 50 to 80% of those people? Not everybody, but enough to make a difference and lessen the chance of getting hooked on opiates. So that was in 2008. And that was before the opiate crisis. But I could see it in my office. People were suffering, and they, and without having, I'm not someone who gives somebody pills. So basically I tell them to put ice on it, rest, do this. Well, the lasers changed everything for me. And I was able to take people with chronic shoulder rotator cuff tears, and 3 times a week for 2 weeks, once a week for another 2 weeks. So it's about 8 to 15 low-level laser treatments. Each treatment takes about 15 minutes. There's no symptom. There's no pain. You don't even really feel that the laser is doing anything. But what happens is range of motion improves, pain lessens, and people start to get better. And from there, of course, I transitioned into I got my fat laser. We call it the lipo laser. So really, it's not a fat laser. It is a low-level laser designed with the color and the wavelength and power to target the contents of a fat cell. So remember I said lasers have different color wavelengths. So there's reds and greens and blues. And then you have the other part of the visible spectrum you can't see, and that would be infrared, near infrared, and far infrared. So the lipo laser, this Lapex BCS machine that I use today, is using a red light, which is 628 nanometers, at a very low power for 8 to 10 minutes applied to the fatty tissue, to the subcutaneous fat, the stuff that's just under your skin. These lasers don't go deep. They only penetrate about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And that's where you have this outer compartment of fat, the stuff that hangs over your belt, the stuff which is bulging around your bras, the stuff that's hanging off your chin. That's subcutaneous. That red light at 140 milliwatts, which is a very low power, after 10 minutes causes the contents of the fat cell to be dumped. It dumps it out. It releases it. So the fat cell was a grape that was completely filled with fluid. After the treatment of 8 to 10 minutes with low-level laser, those contents are released, and that fat cell basically shrinks to the size of a raisin without damaging the cell. So that cell can absorb fat again. If you fall off your diet and you overeat and you really work hard enough, you can make them fat again. And that's a big difference than than the Cool Sculpting and the Safe Sculpt and liposuction and all the other procedures, because what they're doing is they're using energy to destroy that fat cell, to kill it, to crush it, to smash it, instead of just draining it. You need your fat cells. You really do. Your fatty tissue, all of your adipose, which we call adipose cells, is part of your endocrine system. 10 years ago, they knew this, but never really talked about it. 20 years ago, they didn't even know this. So now within the last 10 years, within the last 5 years, the studies are out, the research is there that your fat cells, when you remove tissue, if you use a procedure that removes fat, such as sucking it out or burning it or freezing it, you run a huge risk of fat coming back in other areas in a very abnormal way. You can have what they call fat migration and fat relocation following Cool Sculpting, following the sculpture with the hot lasers, and following the Vanquish, which is an RF machine, which is destroying tissue. It doesn't happen to everybody. It happens enough, though, that it's in the literature. And as you get older after the procedure, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, it's pretty much happens to all of them. Now, why would you care about that? Well, you don't want to sacrifice your health for beauty, in a sense. I want to look better, feel better, and I'd love to do something from the outside which will help me achieve that, but I don't want to trade off my life for that, or my health, or the risk of having an infection or a problem. This is where low-level lasers just excel. This is why I do it. This is why in 10 years, I was here first, way before Cool Sculpting didn't even exist. Liposuction's been around a long time, don't get me wrong. And I could have bought the success we've had at the Slim Body Laser Spa in 10 years. Is over 5,000 people, averaging 6 to 9 inches, proven through the Better Business Bureau, accredited. We've gone through the investigations, and also we've also stood the test of time that we're still here. It's 10 years in body sculpting, and we're growing, and it's bigger than it's ever been. And believe me when I tell you, when Cool Sculpting first came around and these other ones came around, those manufacturers, they were at my office. They offered me deals. They wanted me to promote it. They wanted me to be part of this new non-invasive movement. And I'm like, dude, guys, I'm already there. I think you should jump behind me. I don't need what you have. I think that these things can hurt people. Oh, well, they're non-invasive. Well, compared to what? Compared to liposuction, they are non-invasive. Absolutely. Compared to low-level laser, what we're doing, these things can hurt people. Well, that doesn't happen all the time. Yeah, but what if you're that 2%? What if out of 10 people, one of them gets burned? That's not okay to me. I wasn't okay with that. And I don't want to carry the medical guidance, the medical malpractice, and have doctors that are, in the medical profession, they're kind of used to that. They have insurance for that. They're used to having some bad things happen because of just the nature of their business. And with me as a chiropractor, I don't have that desire to have that happen. So the Slim Body Laser Spa is non-surgical, non-invasive, truly non-surgical and non-invasive. There is no side effects. There are no damaging tissue. It works absolutely hands down like nothing you've ever seen. If you want a free consultation, come on in. We don't charge for consultations. It doesn't mean it's not valuable. I would, I get $300-400 an hour to meet with somebody for a problem-focused orientation and exam. But when it comes to coming in to find out if this is something that can help you, not everybody's a candidate for it. A lot are, but some aren't. How do you know? You don't know. You got to come in for the consultation. So we do that initial consultation at no charge. And once you come in for the consultation, you'll watch our DVD by the manufacturer of our laser procedure, the Lapex procedure, and that's 6 minutes long. And then I'm going to come in and sit down with you and go over your health history, things you've done in the past, struggles you might have, what you'd like to accomplish with expectations. And if everything is in alignment with what this machine can do, then we're going to move into looking at the area. And I'll give you my best honest opinion as to how many sessions are necessary and what the costs are. And if we're good and you're good and I'm good and everything is good, then 3 weeks later, you're going to come out of this with, 4 to 5 inches less girth. Some people will lose weight because they're extra disciplined, not everybody. But at the same time, after 3 weeks, now you have a nutritional program, because that's very important to me. So when people come in, we go over their nutrition, we go over their food habits, we calculate BMI, BMR. We give you what I would consider a fantastic education about food and diet and what works and what doesn't. And so you can make some sense out of all of these ads and these crazy YouTube videos and all these people, talking about, keto diets and it's just too much stuff to even go into it. It even overwhelms me. And, but when you come out of the Slim Body procedure after that 3 weeks, you're basically almost an authority on weight loss, because we spend a lot of time to teach you that. So give us a call, 772-223-5885. We also have of course, we're online, drtred.com, drtredslimbodylaser.com. I also have a new website I just found out from my guys that are helping me with my whole body vibration. It's called drtredsbodyvibe.com, and that allows you to see the whole body vibration plates. I am now a distributor for a fantastic machine called the Ultra Slim Body Slimming Machine, Cyber Slim. And of course, I branded it as Dr. Tred's Body Vibe. And we have them in the office. They're on display. We have an area that you can try it, stand on it, see if it's something that can help you. At the same time, we can help you understand, give you some very safe, sane suggestions on how you can utilize it. So maybe you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s. You're not able to exercise because maybe you hurt your foot, or going to the gym is just not for you. Whole body vibration is a home exercise machine. You can set in front of your TV. You can stand on this thing for 10 minutes a day. It moves up and down, stimulates circulation, strengthens muscles, improves your balance, 40% increase in circulation to your lower extremity. So if you've got neuropathy, if you got diabetes, you got blood circulation issues, as so many do, this vibration plate helps improve circulation just by standing on it. And of course, if you do it consistently over 2 or 3 months, that's where the real long-term benefits come, and longevity and reducing cardiovascular problems. It's quite amazing. What can I say? We love whole body vibration. Been doing it for 12 years. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been through it. Okay. I was, we got just a few minutes left here, about 10 minutes. So I just came back from the Florida Chiropractic Association's convention. It was in Orlando this weekend. And every year, chiropractors and doctors and physical therapists and massage people, we all have what they call continuing education credits we have to do. So for a chiropractor, it's 40 hours every 2 years. So I just did my 20 hours in Orlando. And I'm at a seminar on the science and the efficacy and the research that is supporting the chiropractic principle. Okay, now they don't talk a lot about lasers there. There are some lasers, the manufacturers are there, but as far as the classes and everything, they're more related to alignment and chiropractic. Now, if you just tuned in, when I first came in, I explained what happened to my father. He'd fallen out of a tree. He had twisted his neck when he was 12 years old. When he was 14, a chiropractor x-rayed him, made a correction with his hand, and his curvature problems, his spasms and that imbalance, it corrected itself that day. And he never had the problem come back again. Yet people are scared to go to chiropractors. They still feel it's still only 8% of our population goes to a chiropractor. Only 8%. 100% of you go to the dentist. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of fear about chiropractic. So they had a study, which it blew my mind when I saw it. And here's what they did. They took rats, which God bless rats. They get used a lot in medical experiments. But basically what they did is they took a full grown, a rat. And what they did is they took the molars, which are their back teeth. And on one side, they put a pad so it caused them to have to bite unevenly. So they took this rat, they built up the right molar so it was a little bit bigger than the left molar. So when the rat ate, it had to cross chew. It had to twist its jaw to eat. Like now, you could imagine it. And what happened is from that imbalance in their teeth, the rat became scoliotic. It developed scoliosis. That rat developed a curvature that would be something you'd have to have a brace in. And it happened to every single rat that they did this, where they changed just the height of that rear molar. So the chewing crooked, having a problem with your bite, changes the alignment of the spine in the top of your neck. And because the nerve supply and all of the messages which go down to your body travel through that area, it creates an interference. It can create a subluxation, which can lead to spinal curvature. And what they did was when they removed that bump on their tooth, when they made it so they could chew evenly, what do you think happened? Their spine straightened out. And this was a research paper. They had all the pictures, all the documentation, and it's reproducible. This was only last year. It was at the Palmer School of Chiropractic clinic. Wow. So what it's saying is a dental problem in your mouth where you're not chewing correctly and you're biting on one side more than the other can lead to spinal distortion and health problems in other areas of your body because of the alignment, because of the nerve supply. And who can look at that better than a chiropractor? Now, of course, the dentist has got to fix the tooth, but what about the distortion that happened from it? So I'm telling everybody, if you got a dental problem, you better get it fixed. If you're walking on a bad foot and you're limping on one side, you're going to develop spinal distortion from that. And it's correctable if you fix that. Well, and yet they tell you that you shouldn't go, chiropractors not always can be a problem or not safe. Come on. It's something that I saw that. I was so excited. So that's why I'm here. I wanted to tell you about it. I have pictures of that rat study. If you'd like to see, slimbodylaserspa.com. I love you. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.